The galaxy is in the middle of a devastating war, one that has dragged on for years. The once thriving civilizations of many worlds now lay in ruins. At the center of the conflict is the Zorathian Empire, an alien race so advanced that they control the galaxy with an iron grip. Their powerful fleet, led by ruthless AI-controlled warships and legions of robotic soldiers, has crushed every resistance that dared to stand in their way. The Zorathians are cold, calculating, and unstoppable. No one has been able to stand against them. In a desperate last effort to break free from Zorathian oppression, a small coalition of alien species united under the banner of rebellion. The group consists of brave fighters from a variety of planets, each facing their own personal loss. The humans, once a mighty species that had long vanished from the galaxy, are now nothing more than a distant memory. Earth, their home world, was lost years ago, destroyed in a battle no one remembers, but every fighter in the rebellion holds onto the faintest hope that humanity might still survive. The rebels have endured countless losses, and now, they find themselves in the midst of the Zorathians' final offensive. Their forces are dwindling, their ships are crippled, and their morale is crumbling. In the heart of the rebellion, Commander Talia Bonner stands with her squad, watching as their last line of defense falls before the overwhelming Zorathian assault. Ships are torn apart, entire colonies are wiped off the map, and the coalition's leaders are falling one by one. There seems to be no hope left. The rebels, though brave, are under-equipped compared to the Zorathian war machine. They only have outdated technology, stolen weapons, and desperate willpower to keep them fighting. As the alien ships advance, Talia and her team make a last-ditch effort to slow the enemy down. With their cloaking devices activated, they slip through the darkness of space, sneaking past the Zorathian patrols. Stealth drones zoom through the wreckage of destroyed worlds, their cloaks barely keeping them hidden as they gather intel and strike at the invaders. The visuals are intense, bright lasers tear through the black void, and entire space stations are blown apart in fiery explosions. The rebels take down a few Zorathian robots, but it's clear that the enemy is too powerful. Every victory feels like a fleeting hope in the face of total annihilation. Talia and her team find themselves on the run, cornered in a distant sector of space, their fuel reserves running low, and their weapons beginning to fail. In the midst of the chaos, when all seems lost, something unexpected happens. One of the rebels intercepts a mysterious signal, a faint distress beacon that cuts through the static of the war-torn galaxy. The signal is weak, barely audible, but it's enough to catch their attention. The message seems impossible. It's coming from Earth. The very planet that was thought to be destroyed long ago, wiped out in a conflict with an alien force that had overwhelmed humanity. Earth had been written off as a casualty of war, and with its fall, humanity was believed to be no more. But the signal is unmistakable, it's a distress call. Could it be real? Could humanity have survived? The news spreads quickly through the rebel ranks, and hope ignites like a spark in a dark room. The last place anyone thought they could find salvation, the planet that had been lost to history, might still hold the key to victory. The rebels, exhausted and battered from years of fighting, begin to rally around the idea that humanity is not gone. The possibility that Earth's hidden super soldiers might still be alive stirs something deep within them. Could the human race, thought to be gone forever, be the answer to the galaxy's salvation? Talia and the other commanders make a decision. They must investigate. This signal, this faint hope, could change everything. It could be the turning point that shifts the balance of power in the galaxy. But as they prepare for the long journey to Earth, the Zorathians aren't far behind. They are aware of the rebellion's movements and, sensing something is amiss, begin to track the signal. The rebels must move fast, but they know that if they fail, it will be the end for them, and for everyone else in the galaxy. As the rebel fleet sets course toward Earth, they are met with more resistance. Zorathian warships begin to hunt them down, their AI-controlled drones flooding the sector with advanced weaponry. The tension grows. Time is running out, and if the rebels can't reach Earth in time, the last hope for humanity may vanish forever. Meanwhile, Talia and her team are growing anxious. They feel the weight of the decision they've made. If Earth is truly gone, what will they have left? If the humans are alive, can they really make a difference after all this time? There are too many unanswered questions, and the stakes have never been higher. But the possibility of finding humanity alive gives them the strength to keep going, to keep fighting. In the final moments of the first part of the story, just as the fleet makes its way to Earth, they receive another transmission, a warning from an unknown source. It's unclear whether the message is from the Zorathians or a friend, but one thing is certain, the rebels have made a dangerous move. The Zorathians will stop at nothing to prevent them from reaching Earth, and the consequences of failure are too great to imagine. The rebels now have only one chance to turn the tide of the war. The cliffhanger comes as the fleet sensors detect a Zorathian fleet in pursuit, moving faster than expected. It's a race against time. The last hope for the galaxy, for humanity, may slip away in an instant. Will the rebels reach Earth in time? What lies ahead for humanity, if they are still alive? The answers will come, but for now, the story leaves you with a question that will drive you forward. Can humanity truly save the day when the galaxy is on the brink of destruction? The rebellion's fleet is speeding toward Earth, its members filled with both hope and uncertainty. The faint distress signal from the planet thought to be lost forever has reignited a spark of hope in the hearts of the desperate rebels. But for Commander Talia Bonner, the possibility that humanity is still alive brings mixed emotions. As the fleet draws closer, her mind begins to wander back to a time long before the war, before the universe was torn apart by the Zorathians. Flashbacks flood her thoughts, taking her back to Earth's final days before the war's brutal end. Earth, once a thriving hub of human civilization, had become the epicenter of the conflict. The last great war for the planet's survival had been waged against an alien force unlike any the humans had ever faced. The world was devastated. Cities were reduced to rubble, and the once proud and powerful human military was decimated. In a desperate move to preserve humanity, Earth's government made the fateful decision to place its population into cryogenic sleep. Hidden deep beneath the surface of Earth, in an undisclosed location, was a massive vault containing thousands of specially trained soldiers. These super soldiers were humanity's ultimate weapon, genetically enhanced and physically superior to any known species. Their purpose was clear, to rise from their deep sleep when Earth was ready to fight back. They were humanity's last line of defense, a force that could combat any invader who dared to attack. But that was before the Zorathians came. The Zorathians, with their highly advanced technology and near-invincible warships, had wiped out humanity's defenses before the soldiers could even awaken. Earth was declared a lost world, and the super soldiers were forgotten. For years, no one spoke of them. The people who had once relied on their strength and courage had vanished into the cold darkness of space. Back in the present, as Bonner stares out into the void, she can't help but feel the weight of those memories. She lost everything in that war, her family, her friends, her home. She had never truly believed that humanity would return, that Earth could ever rise from the ashes. The idea that the planet could be home to thousands of soldiers who might still be alive feels like a dream, a distant and painful hope that she doesn't want to let herself believe in. Bonner's personal connection to Earth runs deep. She had been a child when the cryogenic sleep was initiated, one of the last survivors to witness the final fall of humanity's greatest civilization. Her family had been torn apart by the war. She never knew if her parents had survived, or if they had been among the many who perished in the destruction. She often wonders if anyone she knew before the war is still out there. If the life she once knew will ever return. Now, as the rebels prepare to reach Earth, Bonner finds herself facing an internal struggle. The distress signal from Earth has stirred up a mixture of hope and skepticism within her. Could the humans still be alive? Could they really be the answer to ending the war? Or is it just another illusion, like so many others she has chased throughout the years? The rest of the rebel commanders are eager to investigate the signal. They believe that Earth's super soldiers could be the key to turning the tide of the war, but Bonner remains hesitant. She knows the human race, once the dominant force in the galaxy, is now a distant memory. What could a few thousand soldiers possibly do against the might of the Zorathian Empire? Even if the humans are alive, the destruction they would face from the Zorathians could be overwhelming. Bonner's heart aches as she recalls her family, her parents, her younger brother, and her friends. They had all fought to defend Earth before it fell, and she had watched them die. She never thought she'd have to relive the past, especially not under these circumstances. But with every passing second, the hope that maybe humanity could still have a place in the galaxy begins to grow stronger. But there's a problem. The rebels don't know what to expect and they arrive on Earth. The planet was left in ruins after the war. It's possible that the super soldiers may have died in the time they spent in cryogenic sleep. The vault where they were kept may have been compromised or destroyed during the war. And what if the humans aren't what they once were? What if they've changed, or if they don't even remember who they are? Bonner doesn't want to get her hopes up, only to face another painful disappointment. As the rebels get closer to Earth, tension begins to mount. Bonner's uncertainty grows as she reflects on her past. She never wanted to be a leader of the rebellion. She was just a soldier, a simple soldier who wanted to protect her people, her family. But now, she has a responsibility that weighs on her like a ton of bricks. She has to make decisions that could shape the fate of the galaxy. The rest of the rebel leaders push forward with their plan, eager to investigate the signal and discover if humanity truly is alive. But Bonner remains conflicted. The idea of trusting the signal, of believing in the possibility of Earth's return, is almost too much for her to bear. She's seen too much loss, too much devastation, to be able to just believe in something so far-fetched. In her quiet moments, Bonner finds herself revisiting old memories, of Earth before the war, of the time before everything changed. The bustling cities, the shining spaceships, the promise of a bright future. She remembers the peace they once enjoyed, and it makes her wonder if any of that could be restored. Can humanity truly rise from the ashes, or is Earth just a forgotten relic of the past? As the fleet approaches the planet, Bonner makes a silent promise to herself. She will see this mission through, no matter the cost. Even if she doesn't believe that humanity can return, even if the hope seems impossible, she knows she has a duty. The past may be gone, but she still carries the memory of Earth and the people who fought to defend it. Perhaps, just perhaps, this will be the chance to honor their sacrifice. The chapter ends with Bonner's internal resolve hardening. As the fleet gets closer to Earth's orbit, her heart pounds with anticipation. What awaits them on the planet below? Will humanity return to save the galaxy? Or will the dream of Earth's rebirth be lost to the stars forever? The rebels are now on the brink of something monumental. But for Bonner, the journey to Earth is more than just a military mission, it's a personal one. The promise of Earth's revival holds the potential for redemption, but also the risk of heartbreak. The future of humanity rests on the edge of a knife, and only time will tell if this forgotten promise can be fulfilled. The air was thick with tension as the last remaining human stronghold, the planet Vloris, loomed under the shadow of the Zorathian fleet. The final battle for survival seemed inevitable, as the Zorathian Empire's massive warships closed in, their engines burning brightly against the backdrop of the endless void. The rebellion's forces, though united and determined, knew they were vastly outmatched. Their cloaking devices and stealth tactics had bought them precious time, but there was no denying the overwhelming might of the Zorathian forces. As the Zorathians drew nearer, the rebels braced themselves for what was to come. The strength of the Zorathian Empire lay in their advanced technology, warships that could outgun any ship in the galaxy, fleets of AI-controlled drones that were nearly impossible to stop, and orbital laser systems capable of reducing entire planets to rubble. The rebels, despite their best efforts, had never been able to match the scale of their enemy's technological superiority. The mood among the rebel forces was grim. Every day felt like a countdown to the inevitable destruction. They knew the enemy was preparing to launch a full-scale attack, and with the Zorathians so close, it was only a matter of time before the battle began. The distress signal from Earth had given them hope, but that hope felt fragile, like a spark in the midst of a violent storm. Could humanity really come to their rescue in time? Or was this the final stand of the rebellion, where all would be lost? As the fleet made its final approach to Vloris, the Zorathians made their move. The sky lit up with the blinding brightness of orbital lasers, the devastating beams of light cutting through space and slamming into the surface of Vloris. The ground trembled as massive explosions erupted, sending shockwaves through the atmosphere. The once proud stronghold of the rebels was now under siege, and the Zorathians showed no signs of slowing down. Their warships hovered above, unleashing a relentless barrage of fire upon the planet. Amidst the chaos, the rebel commanders scrambled to coordinate their defense. Bonner, the veteran commander, stood at the front of the command center, watching the holographic map of the battlefield. The Zorathian forces were overwhelming, and their drones were everywhere, scanning, attacking, and wiping out anything in their path. The rebels fought back with everything they had, launching counterattacks and deploying cloaked fighters to strike at the enemy's weak points. But it wasn't enough. The Zorathians were simply too powerful. "Deploy everything we've got," Bonner shouted into the comms, her voice filled with urgency. "We can't let them breach the city." She watched as rebel ships rose into the sky, cloaked in the shadow of the planet, only to be met with the sharp laser fire from the Zorathian drones. Each explosion sent debris scattering into space. The Zorathian AI-controlled fleets were relentless, their drones swarming in formation and picking off rebel ships with surgical precision. Every missile fired, every cannon blast, seemed to fall short. Despite their courage and resourcefulness, the rebels knew they were fighting an uphill battle. The Zorathian forces had the upper hand. The sheer scale of the invasion was enough to make even the most battle-hardened warriors doubt if victory was still possible. They had been relying on the hope that the humans would return in time to help them turn the tide of the war. But with each passing moment, that hope seemed to fade. Could humanity truly save them, or had they been too far gone? Bonner felt a gnawing sense of doubt in her chest. Was it all for nothing? On the front lines, the rebels fought fiercely, but the battle was slipping away from them. Bonner's mind raced as she watched the destruction unfolding before her eyes. The sky above Vloris was streaked with lasers, and the surface of the planet was being torn apart by the continuous bombardment. Massive explosions ripped through the atmosphere, sending shockwaves that rocked the rebel base to its core. The rebels had one last line of defense, a shield generator that could protect the city from the orbital lasers. But it was clear that even the shield wouldn't hold for long. The Zorathians had calculated their every move, using advanced AI to predict the rebels' strategies and counter them at every turn. The generator flickered as a laser blast struck it directly, sending sparks flying and disabling the shield for critical moments. "Hold the line," Bonner ordered through gritted teeth, her voice filled with determination despite the overwhelming odds. "We can't give up now." But even her words felt hollow. The reality of the situation was undeniable. The Zorathians were closing in, and the rebellion's forces were crumbling under the weight of their superior firepower. As Bonner watched, her thoughts were consumed with the possibility that the rebels might not survive this assault. The message from Earth had sparked a glimmer of hope, but with every minute that passed, that hope seemed less and less likely to come true. As the battle raged on, the rebels continued to fight valiantly, but it became clear that their resources were running out. The Zorathian warships hovered in the sky, their weapons tearing through the rebel defenses. The rebels scrambled to mount one last resistance, but their forces were dwindling. With every passing minute, the chance of survival seemed to grow slimmer. Then, as the rebels braced for the inevitable final strike, something unexpected happened. A ripple in the vastness of space, like a sudden disturbance, caught their attention. The enemy fleet faltered for a moment, as if thrown off balance by an unseen force. For just an instant, the laser fire from the Zorathians paused. "What's happening?" Bonner asked, her eyes fixed on the strange anomaly. Suddenly, a new signal appeared, powerful, clear, and unmistakable. It was a human fleet. Hope surged through the rebellion's ranks. The long-forgotten promise of humanity had come true. The humans had arrived, and they were coming to fight. The chapter ends with Bonner staring in disbelief at the incoming human ships, their powerful weapons lighting up the sky. Could humanity, once thought to be lost, be the salvation the galaxy so desperately needed? As the human fleet approaches, the rebels prepare for their last stand against the Zorathian Empire, and the possibility of victory at last. The battle on Vloris was nearing its breaking point. The Zorathian forces had brought everything they had to bear on the planet, their orbital lasers obliterating what was left of the rebel defenses. The situation was dire. Rebel ships were barely holding together, and the streets of the human stronghold were littered with debris and scorched ruins. The Zorathians had all but won, their AI-controlled drones relentlessly pushing forward, cutting down anyone who dared to stand against them. The last hope for the rebels, the distress signal from Earth, had seemed to be nothing more than a fleeting dream. But then, just when it seemed like all was lost, something extraordinary happened. As the Zorathian ships moved into position for their final strike, the ground beneath Vloris began to tremble. The skies above darkened, and a deep rumble reverberated through the atmosphere. For a moment, everything stopped. The rebels, already battered and bloodied, paused, confused by the sudden shift. Even the Zorathians seemed momentarily disoriented, their warships hovering, waiting for the next move. In the heart of the planet's last stronghold, hidden beneath layers of rubble and ash, an ancient cryogenic chamber slowly came to life. The chamber, once thought to be an insignificant relic of a past long gone, flickered on with a burst of energy. Deep within the vaults, humanity's ultimate weapon, thousands of genetically enhanced supersoldiers, began to stir. For decades, Earth's government had planned for the worst. In the event of a catastrophic war, the planet's leadership had invested everything in a secret project designed to create the perfect warriors, humans stronger, faster, and more resilient than anyone could have imagined. These soldiers had been placed in cryogenic sleep, waiting for the day they would be needed most. That day had arrived. The cryochamber doors hissed open, revealing rows of soldiers encased in advanced power armor, their bodies enhanced with state-of-the-art technology. These soldiers were more than just humans, they were living weapons, designed to turn the tide of any battle. Their armor gleamed with an intimidating shine, and their weapons, futuristic and deadly, pulsed with energy. These soldiers were humanity's last line of defense, and now they were awake and ready to fight. As the first wave of soldiers stepped onto the battlefield, the scene was nothing short of spectacular. The rebels, who had been struggling just moments before, stared in awe at the sight of these super soldiers emerging from their hidden vaults. They were a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The soldiers moved with precision, their every action a testament to years of training and genetic enhancement. The Zorathians, who had been confident in their victory, were caught off guard. The first human soldiers, cloaked in advanced invisibility technology, moved silently through the chaos. The Zorathian drones, which had been swarming the battlefield, never saw them coming. One by one, the drones fell as the humans engaged with deadly accuracy. Their weapons cut through the Zorathian machines like a hot knife through butter, each shot a perfect strike. The Zorathians tried to retaliate, but their laser fire passed harmlessly through the empty air, their targets already gone. The humans worked together with military precision, their tactics flawless. Using their cloaking devices, they moved like shadows, taking down enemies before they even knew what hit them. Every strike was calculated, every move strategic. It was as though the battlefield had suddenly turned into a dance of death, with the Zorathians now the prey. The rebels watched in amazement as the tide began to turn. The humans were no longer the underdogs, they were the predators. Within moments, the once overwhelming Zorathian drones began to fall apart. Each blast from the humans' weapons sent a drone spiraling into destruction. The Zorathian forces, now disoriented and stunned by the sudden appearance of these super soldiers, attempted to regroup. But it was too late. The humans were already upon them, moving faster than their enemies could react. The Zorathian warships, once confident in their superior firepower, now found themselves being picked off one by one. The human soldiers, armed with cutting-edge weaponry and advanced tactics, swarmed over the enemy fleet, tearing apart their defenses with ruthless efficiency. Bonner, the rebel commander, watched in awe as humanity's super soldiers began to turn the battle in their favor. She had seen many things in her time as a commander, but nothing like this. The humans had not only arrived, they had arrived with a power that could not be matched. Their strength, speed, and intelligence were beyond anything the Zorathians could comprehend. The once indomitable enemy was now retreating, their forces crumbling in the face of this unexpected threat. Are these the humans? Bonner muttered to herself, a mixture of disbelief and awe in her voice. She had spent so long believing that Earth was lost, that the humans were nothing more than a forgotten myth. But now, as she watched the battlefield shift before her eyes, she realized that humanity had never been lost. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to return. The human soldiers, equipped with their advanced power armor, continued to wreak havoc on the Zorathian forces. Every Zorathian ship they encountered was torn apart with ease. The once confident Zorathian commanders, who had thought victory was within their grasp, now found themselves scrambling to regroup. But it was clear, humanity's arrival had changed everything. In the blink of an eye, the rebels' fortunes had shifted. The Zorathians, who had been on the verge of victory, were now in full retreat. The humans had proven their superiority, not just in technology, but in tactics and sheer strength. As the battlefield erupted into chaos, Bonner realized that the humans weren't just saving the galaxy, they were about to reshape the future itself. The rebels, once outmatched and on the brink of destruction, now had a fighting chance. With humanity's super soldiers on their side, the Zorathian Empire would soon know the true meaning of defeat. The tables had turned. The humans had awakened, and their vengeance would be swift. The battle had reached its peak. The sudden arrival of humanity's super soldiers had turned the tide in favor of the rebels, but the Zorathians were not willing to accept defeat so easily. As the human soldiers fought with brutal efficiency, the Zorathians quickly adapted, unleashing their own weapon, an army of AI-controlled soldiers, designed to be faster, stronger, and more ruthless than any biological warrior. These machines were built for one purpose: to crush humanity once and for all. The skies above were filled with the deadly glow of orbital bombardments. Zorathian warships, large and menacing, rained fire down upon the rebel strongholds, each explosion lighting up the sky like a second sun. On the ground, the battle was just as intense. Buildings were reduced to rubble in the blink of an eye, and the air was thick with smoke and the acrid scent of burning metal. The rebels, along with the humans, fought valiantly to defend their last stronghold, but the Zorathian forces were relentless. The sound of weapons firing, the roar of explosions, and the screams of battle filled the air as both sides clashed in the ruins of once great cities. Bonner, the rebel commander, fought with everything she had. Her heart pounded in her chest as she and her crew battled side by side with the humans, who had already proven themselves as a force to be reckoned with. She had spent so much time believing in the hopelessness of their situation, but now, as she stood alongside the super soldiers, she saw a new glimmer of hope. They were pushing back the Zorathians. Slowly but surely, the enemy was retreating. The Zorathians had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. But just as it seemed like victory might be within reach, the Zorathians brought out their most terrifying weapon yet, their AI-controlled soldiers. These machines were unlike anything the humans had faced before. They were faster, more efficient, and more merciless than the drones that had been wiping out entire colonies. They moved with precision, their every step calculated, and they seemed unstoppable. As the Zorathian soldiers advanced, the humans found themselves outmatched once again. Their cloaking devices flickered, and their advanced weapons struggled to hold the line. The battle became a blur of flashing lights, smoke, and chaos. Humans and Zorathians clashed in close-quarters combat, fighting through darkened, abandoned cities that had once been home to millions. The streets were littered with the bodies of fallen soldiers, their weapons scattered across the ground. The close-quarters combat was brutal, hand-to-hand fighting, laser fire, and the hum of energy blades filled the air. It was a fight for survival, and every moment felt like it could be the last. Bonner's heart raced as she dodged a blast from an AI soldier's weapon, narrowly avoiding being hit. She returned fire with precision, watching as the machine crumpled to the ground. But for every Zorathian that fell, two more seemed to take its place. The rebels and humans were giving everything they had, but the enemy seemed endless. The stakes had never been higher, and the outcome of this battle would determine the fate of the galaxy. As the battle raged on, Bonner's thoughts turned to her team. She had come to rely on these brave men and women, and their courage had kept her going through the darkest times. But the losses were beginning to mount. One by one, soldiers fell, their lives cut short by the overwhelming power of the Zorathian forces. It was a grim reality that weighed heavily on Bonner's shoulders, and she struggled to keep her focus amidst the chaos. Then, the unthinkable happened. A young rebel, known for his bravery and optimism, was caught in an explosion during a particularly fierce skirmish. Bonner had known him since the early days of the Resistance, and his death hit her harder than any loss she had faced before. She watched in horror as his body was consumed by the blast, his screams drowned out by the roar of the battlefield. The loss of the young rebel shook everyone to their core. It wasn't just the loss of a soldier, it was the loss of hope. The rebels had been fighting for so long, and they had already sacrificed so much. Now, the loss of one of their own was the tipping point. The remaining fighters, both humans and rebels, were overcome with a surge of rage and determination. The death of their comrade ignited something deep within them. The pain of loss was transformed into a burning desire for vengeance. They would not let his death be in vain. In that moment, the humans and rebels fought with a renewed sense of purpose. The tide of battle shifted once again. Bonner, fueled by grief and fury, led her team with unmatched intensity. Every strike, every shot, every movement was filled with a sense of urgency. The rebels and humans pushed forward, unwilling to let the Zorathians take any more from them. The AI-controlled soldiers, once thought to be invincible, began to falter. The humans' superior tactics and the rebels' unyielding spirit proved to be a deadly combination. With each Zorathian machine that fell, the morale of the enemy began to crumble. The humans had shown them what true strength was, and the Zorathians were beginning to understand that they were no longer the dominant force in the galaxy. The explosions continued to shake the ground, but now they were in favor of the rebels. As the battle wore on, the Zorathians retreated, unable to withstand the combined might of humanity and their allies. The once unstoppable force had been broken, and the humans had proven their worth. Bonner stood among the wreckage, breathing heavily, her face streaked with dirt and blood. The battle was far from over, but the loss of the young rebel had united them in a way nothing else could. The stakes had never been higher, but the humans had shown that they were willing to fight to the last breath. And now, with the Zorathians on the run, victory seemed just within reach. The battle of the last stand had begun, and the humans had found their place among the stars. The battle had reached its breaking point. The Zorathian forces, battered and defeated, had realized they could no longer win with their conventional tactics. The rebellion, bolstered by humanity's super soldiers, had turned the tide. But the Zorathians weren't going to surrender so easily. In a final, desperate bid to maintain control over the galaxy, they unleashed their ultimate weapon, a massive, AI-controlled warship capable of destroying entire planets. This warship, the Zorathian Exemplar, was equipped with a powerful energy cannon that could wipe out entire civilizations in the blink of an eye. It was their last hope. If it worked, the galaxy would fall under Zorathian rule once and for all. The Zorathian exemplar rose from the depths of space, its black hull gleaming like a shadow as it deployed its devastating weapon. It was unlike anything the rebels had ever faced. A massive behemoth of metal, armed with an energy cannon capable of turning entire worlds to ash. Its size was overwhelming, its firepower even more so. The humans and their rebel allies knew that if this weapon was allowed to fire, it would mean the end. Not just for their fight, but for all of civilization. Captain Sarah Donovan, the human leader of the rebellion, knew that they had no choice but to make one final push. The humans had already proven their resilience, but this warship was a different beast altogether. If they didn't act fast, all of their efforts would be for nothing. They had to infiltrate the warship, disable its AI core, and destroy it from within before the Zorathians could fire. Sarah had fought alongside her crew for years, but this mission was unlike any other. The stakes had never been higher. The Zorathian exemplar was a nearly indestructible fortress, and getting aboard would be no easy task. But Sarah's determination was unmatched. She had seen the destruction caused by the Zorathians, and she couldn't let it continue. Her crew, the humans, and the rebels all had one thing in common now: they were willing to sacrifice everything to stop the Zorathians. With the plan in motion, Sarah took command of a fleet of ships, made up of human warships and rebel forces. They gathered in the dark expanse of space, preparing for the final assault. The rebels were eager to end the war, and the humans were determined to prove their worth. The battle was set to begin. The Zorathian exemplar was on a direct course toward the last remaining stronghold, and time was running out. The fleet's approach was stealthy. Using cloaking technology and advanced power armor, they managed to slip past the outer defenses of the Zorathian warship. The plan was simple but dangerous: get inside the ship, disable its AI core, and destroy the weapon before it could fire. But nothing was ever simple when dealing with the Zorathians. They were prepared for the attack, and as the fleet made its way into the heart of the enemy ship, they encountered fierce resistance. Inside the Zorathian exemplar, the corridors were dark and cold, and the air was thick with the hum of machinery. The humans and rebels moved with precision, their cloaking devices ensuring that they stayed hidden from the enemy's sensors. But it wasn't enough to guarantee safety. The Zorathians had AI-controlled sentries, robots designed to protect their most valuable assets. These machines were fast, efficient, and ruthless. They were programmed to identify threats and eliminate them without hesitation. It was a brutal game of cat and mouse as the human and rebel forces moved deeper into the heart of the ship, hoping to reach the AI core before the Zorathians could stop them. The first sign of trouble came when a group of rebel soldiers triggered a hidden sensor. The ship's alarms blared, and in an instant, the corridors were filled with armed AI robots. The humans and rebels had no choice but to fight their way through. The sleek power armor they wore gave them an edge, allowing them to engage the robots head-on, but the robots were no pushovers. Their movements were calculated and precise, and they fought with a cold, unfeeling efficiency. The clash of energy weapons and the shriek of metal against metal filled the air as the battle raged on. The team fought fiercely, but they knew that time was against them. Every minute they spent fighting the robots brought them closer to the moment and the Zorathians would fire their planet-killing weapon. Captain Donovan led the charge, her leadership unwavering even in the face of such overwhelming odds. She knew they had to keep pushing forward. There was no turning back now. As they reached the heart of the ship, the tension was palpable. The AI core, located in the ship's central command center, was the key to everything. If they could destroy it, the ship would be rendered useless, and the Zorathians' final weapon would be neutralized. But as they approached the core, they encountered the ship's most powerful defense, an AI-controlled Guardian, a towering robot designed specifically to protect the heart of the warship. It was unlike any machine they had faced before. The robot's sheer size and power made it nearly impossible to defeat, but Captain Donovan and her team were not about to give up. With a coordinated effort, they engaged the Guardian in a deadly battle. The air crackled with energy as the humans and the AI robot exchanged blows. Sparks flew, and the ground shook with each powerful strike. It was a fight to the death, and only one side could come out victorious. The team's strength, their tactics, and their determination were pushed to their limits as they fought for the future of the galaxy. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Guardian fell. The team had succeeded in destroying the ship's last line of defense, and the AI core was now within reach. With a single strike, they disabled the AI and detonated the ship's main reactor. The explosion sent a shockwave through the ship, and the Zorathian's ultimate weapon was no more. As the Zorathian exemplar exploded in a fiery blaze, the humans and rebels breathed a collective sigh of relief. The battle was over. They had won. And the galaxy was safe, thanks to the courage and sacrifice of the humans who had fought to the very end. As the Zorathian exemplar exploded in a fiery burst of light, the battle for the galaxy had finally been won. The devastating weapon of the Zorathian Empire had been destroyed, and with it, the last shred of their hope for dominance. The humans, alongside their rebel allies, had emerged victorious in the most intense battle the galaxy had ever seen. The Zorathian forces, broken and leaderless, were forced to retreat. Their advanced warships and AI-controlled robots had failed to conquer the galaxy, and now, they had no choice but to flee, leaving the rebels and the humans to rebuild what had been destroyed. For the first time in years, the galaxy was at peace. The relentless wave of destruction that had swept across planets, leaving death and despair in its wake, had come to an end. The Zorathians, who had once ruled with an iron fist, were no longer a threat. The rebellion, which had fought tooth and nail against overwhelming odds, stood victorious, with humanity at its heart. The human super-soldiers, once thought to be a forgotten weapon of a lost civilization, had proven themselves to be the key to saving the galaxy. The final moments of the battle had been both glorious and heartbreaking. Bonner, the rebel commander who had once doubted humanity's ability to return, stood alongside Captain Sarah Donovan as they looked upon the wreckage of the Zorathian exemplar. His heart was heavy with the losses they had suffered, but there was a sense of pride in his chest. The humans had come through when they were needed most. They had turned the tide of the war, and now, they were the galaxy's saviors. With the Zorathians in retreat, the remaining species of the galaxy were able to regroup. The galaxy's fractured alliances began to heal, and a new hope bloomed where there had once been only despair. Humanity, now recognized as the saviors of the galaxy, forged new bonds with the surviving species. The rebellion, once a group of scattered fighters struggling for survival, had become the cornerstone of a new era. Humanity's strength, resilience, and ingenuity had won the respect of their allies, and the galaxy now looked to Earth as a symbol of hope and unity. As the human fleet made its way back to Earth, the sense of triumph was palpable. The stars that had once been filled with destruction and fear now seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the victory that had been won. The humans, who had spent years in hiding, had not only survived but had triumphed against all odds. Their return to Earth was a moment of celebration, but it was also a reminder of the long road ahead. The war had ended, but the work of rebuilding was just beginning. The camera pulled back as the human fleet entered the atmosphere of Earth, revealing a planet full of life and potential. The once barren land was now teeming with green, the cities that had been abandoned in the wake of the war were being rebuilt, and the people who had been left in the dark were finally able to see the light of a new day. Earth, once thought to be a dying world, stood tall as a beacon of hope, showing that even in the darkest of times, humanity had the strength to rise again. Bonner stood at the helm of the ship, his gaze fixed on the world below. He had lost so much during the war, friends, comrades, and countless lives. But now, as he looked at the planet that had been his home, he saw a future full of promise. He remembered the young rebel who had died in combat, the pain of losing someone so close, but he knew that their sacrifice had not been in vain. The victory they had fought for was not just for themselves, but for the future of the galaxy. And that future was now in humanity's hands. The camera lingered on Bonner's face, a mixture of sorrow and hope in his eyes. He had led his people through the hardest of times, and now, with the war behind them, he knew that humanity had a chance to create something better. The battle was over, but the real work was just beginning. As Earth rose in the distance, a new chapter for humanity was about to begin. The camera slowly pulled back, revealing the vastness of space, with Earth shining brightly in the foreground. The stars that had once felt distant and unreachable now seemed closer than ever. The victory over the Zorathians was not the end of humanity's story, but the beginning of something even greater. With the war behind them, humanity was ready to forge its path forward, stronger than ever before. The screen faded to black, and a sense of peace settled over the audience. The rebellion had triumphed. The Zorathians were gone. And humanity, with its strength, resilience, and unyielding spirit, had secured its place in the galaxy. The future was full of promise, and the camera's final shot showed Earth, thriving once more, a symbol of everything humanity had fought for and everything they had yet to achieve. The story of humanity had just begun, and it was a story that would echo through the stars for generations to come.